you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here is the video that you came here for. Let's start with the Bob Huggins stuff. We all know the deal by now. Bob Huggins on Saturday resigned after being arrested on Friday night for a DUI in Pittsburgh, resigns as the head coach of West Virginia University. That point, we haven't heard much from Bob Huggins. He releases a statement, all that good stuff. It's pretty quiet as I record here about 9 p.m. on Wednesday or Tuesday evening into Wednesday. The school hasn't made anything formal in terms of what the next step is, but that has not stopped Bob Huggins' daughter, Jackie, from speaking out. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, did she have a lot to say. I want to read some of what Jackie had to say. And just so it's clear, this is going to take a minute. She had a lot to say. I want to be fair to her, so I'm going to read as much of it as I can. She had a lot to say about the situation at West Virginia and her father being fired as the West Virginia coach. Let's start. Now that we've had some time to process, I want to be the first to say I understand the severity of what took place. I also fully understand how it potentially could have and does affect so many lives. People are human and people make mistakes. We are all guilty of that in some capacity. Let's spread love and healing and not hate to someone who bleeds gold and blue for all of you. Okay, good start. Perfectly normal response. Perfectly normal statement from Jackie Huggins, Bob Huggins' daughter. To Gordon Gee, who's the West Virginia school president, and your board, be better and do better. This is where it starts getting interesting. Throwing stones at glass houses is also not how to represent such a great university, treating someone like they don't matter after they gave their whole heart and soul to your university. You could have helped, but chose to turn your backs. Not only on him, on the guys, the staff, the boosters, everyone. You're the classless ones, the cowards, the backstabbers, and most of all, the hypocrites. Remember the $24 million practice facility that was not in any way funded by the university? The $17 million into your hospitals for cancer research? I can only pray you never make another mistake like you have in the past to be crucified for. But it continues and it gets better. Here is more of Jackie Huggins, Bob Huggins' daughter. Not that I need to touch on any more on what happened, but I'm going to. Because the people above don't deserve the right to hide how it really happened and the kind of people they actually are. My dad is not an alcoholic. He drinks like 90% of us do and made a mistake that cost him his job, his reputation, and his livelihood, which he didn't deserve. He told Gordon and his board that he would go to rehab for a 60-day stint to be able to stay for these guys, the guys who don't want to play for anyone else. That's how much he cares. It was refused, not even considered, 100% no without a thought. But they want to preach this society of understanding and compassion? I've not passed the bar, but I'm pretty sure there are some stiff laws against this. Once a mountaineer, always mountaineer, right? And then finally, this was a juicy little interesting side note. Next. The beer cans all over the car. The cans were in bags and not all were beer cans. There's a small group in Morgantown who knows my dad collects cans to recycle. Always has, always will. That's his thing. To act like he was driving around pounding beers as the media wants to portray is absolutely absurd. The society we are living in doesn't always tell the truth. Media will tell you what they want you to believe or what they want you to know. That choice, of course, is yours to buy it or not, but just know it is not always factual. It's easy to judge a person from the outside looking in. Whew. Goodness, do I have a lot of thoughts on this situation as Jackie Huggins, Bob Huggins' daughter, has now spoken out on her father's behalf. First of all, I think it's very clear and very interesting. She clearly has some information that we are not privy to. I think most importantly, I thought the 60-day rehab stint was very interesting. It appears as though Bob Huggins tried to argue, let me go to rehab, let me coach this team. They came here to play for me, all of that good stuff. Find that interesting. Also find interesting some of the other stuff that she mentioned, raising money for cancer research, raising money for a practice facility. It's clear that she has obviously gotten both sides of this story. And one thing I will say, what she said at the end, I do think that there are times that the media portrays things in certain ways. So I'm glad that maybe her father will not speak out. Her father is kind of staying quiet. She is speaking out on what she believes her family's truth is. No problem with that at all. Two, couple other thoughts. One, what do you say about somebody saying that he drinks like 90% of people in this world? Because I'm sorry, we read the police report the other day. Twice the legal limit, almost 3 times the legal limit, 0.21. She mentioned empty beer cans. Yes, there were empty beer cans in his car. The recycling is a twist. I'll be blunt. When I heard about empty beer cans, I kind of thought that might be an excuse at some point. Let this be a lesson, guys and girls, and I'm sort of being sarcastic, but sort of not. Don't ever drive 3 times the legal limit. But if you do not have empty beer cans in your car and then claim it's over recycling, okay? I'm sorry, that's the truth. If you want to recycle, you want to be a good humanitarian, that's great. Do not be driving around with empty beer cans when you've been drinking, because even if, let's just say there's a 1% of truth about what she said about him being into recycling, you can't do that when you're 3 times the legal limit, almost 3 times the legal limit. So I think there's a lot there. But really what I would just say, one, I am glad that she got this out and told her version of the truth. Bob Huggins, I don't believe is ever going to coach basketball again. If this gives her peace, then I have no problem with it. I guess what I would also say is that as I read that, what really struck me was what I often say on this show. And what I say is, in life, 2 things that seemingly don't seem to both make sense or both be true can be. In life, more than one thing can be true. And I think this is a great example of that. Because on the one hand, I do think her sentiment about players and people caring about Bob Huggins, that can be true. It can be true that in his core, at the bottom of his heart, he's a good guy. I've never met Bob Huggins. I don't really know him. I've only been in press conferences with him. He yelled at me one time. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty darn intimidating. I asked him a question he didn't like. He kind of gave me that look. For those of you who have never been in a building with Bob Huggins, he's about 6'5", 6'6". He's a big boy. And so I guess what I would say is I got off subject there. I don't know Bob Huggins, but everyone who knows him says he's a good guy. His heart's in the right place. I don't doubt that, by the way. If you read some of the tributes to him when he resigned, Frank Martin tweeted about crying in his car and the role that Bob Huggins played in his life. Kirk Kriisa, a transfer from Arizona, tweeted out this. I'm going to read it verbatim. He said, "Man, I knew the dude 3 months, but it felt like forever. So thankful for really believing in me and taking me in as part of your family. Love you, coach." So I do think there is an element of truth to he's probably a really good guy. The people that know him swear by him. John Calipari swears by him. Bill Self swears by him. Most people in the coaching community swear by him. Frank Martin, as I just said. Andy Kennedy, his former assistant. I don't doubt that he's a good guy, and I don't doubt this either, that he truly loves West Virginia University, and he truly loves the state of West Virginia. His daughter talks about the cancer research. That money comes from what he used to do, the Bob Huggins fish fry every year. Puts together an event, sells tickets, all the proceeds go to cancer. I know there were bonuses in his contract that he would get. I think it was like $100,000 if he beat Kansas or something like that. Or maybe it was 50 or maybe it was 25, whatever. But that money, when he would win those games, would be donated to cancer research. So I don't doubt that he's a good guy. I also would say respectfully to his daughter, he had to go, man. He had to go. And I'm not here to speculate. She says he's not an alcoholic, whatever. I'm not here to speculate. What I am here to say is this. We went through the report. We went through the details, all that good stuff. 3 times the legal limit basically was the blood alcohol level. More than twice, not quite 3 times. If you remember what we talked about on Monday, this was a guy who did not know what city he was in. He thought he was in Columbus, Ohio. He was in Pittsburgh, could not explain why he was in Pittsburgh, could not explain why he had a flat tire. Did have empty beer cans in the car, by the way. It was interesting. In the police report, he referenced, I just stopped at Burger King or something to that effect. The receipt showed that he stopped at Burger King about 8 hours before. So he has hours of his day that cannot be accounted for. And this all stemmed after The first situation earlier this spring when he made the inappropriate comment on radio. And so you are already on a zero tolerance policy. I'm sorry. I hope Bob Huggins, if maybe he isn't an alcoholic, maybe this was a one-off bad deal, and maybe he doesn't need help. But he couldn't continue as the West Virginia basketball coach. And especially, by the way, guys and girls, you know the deal. When you screw up, whether it's at work, with your wife, with your kids, whatever, and they give you a second chance, you're on thin ice. You have to be perfect. And after what happened a few months ago, couldn't have this. Sorry that Bob Huggins ended this way. Wild comments by his daughter. But I think the school ultimately made the right decision, even though these are some crazy, crazy, crazy comments.